Good morning, it's Stephanie for your final episode of A Glimpse in the Grove. Amanda and I came back to the Pacific Grove Monarch Sanctuary for this final episode. This is normally where I would be ending my season anyway, here in February. And we're going to talk a little bit later about what you would be seeing in February with the monarchs. And it's a very interesting and very different type of behavior, very exciting. So we'll wait for that. But I did want to just give you some final numbers. We had talked about them in the other episodes. Unfortunately, we still have no monarchs in the sanctuary, although we never know. We might see one later. We're going to cross our fingers. And the question mark is for what's going to happen next season. Are we going to have monarchs here? We hope so. So I do want to point out that the final count, remember we talked about when we have this black circle around there, it's the final count. This number is not for the monarchs that were in the sanctuary like these numbers are. We had a total of 1,914 that our monarch docents counted for the whole Western population. Very different from 30,000 that we had in the past, or even close to 200,000, or even 50,000 that we're having. So we're hoping that this number will also go up eventually. All right, so let's go learn about what's happening in the sanctuary. Okay. So when I come in February and the temperature is over 55 degrees, which is what we're hoping, that it's a sunny day, I'm going to come in without even my binoculars, and I'm going to be looking up in the sky for this really fast chase game going on between the males and the females. It's not the normal, just like flying around there, you see the butterflies fluttering, but this zigzag flight. And the monarch females and the males can fly just as fast as each other. And so you'd see this chase game going around. And what's happening is it's almost like a test, if you can think about it that way. The females are looking for really strong flyers because they want to make sure that their offspring, right, their babies that they have later, are going to be strong flyers as well. So we're looking for this zigzag flight, and the males are chasing. And then what happens is there's a capture. So the males will capture the females, and suddenly we might be walking along and we'll get a pair that falls to the ground in front of us. So we have to be really careful when we come in here that we're looking on the ground so that we don't step on any monarchs, because as you can see here, this gravel is almost the same color as the monarchs when their wings are folded. So here's an example. So we had a pair that fell to the ground, and you see when their wings are folded how they're blending in with the gravel and the dirt that's on the ground. So the male, and we'll talk about in a few minutes, I'll show you how you can see for yourself, or you can identify the male and the female. But the male is trying to clasp onto the female so that he can fly off with her. So this is this next test in this series of things that the male does. He's got to use his claspers at the end of his abdomen to clasp onto her abdomen. Now she makes it difficult. She goes underneath leaves. She'll drag him across the ground sometimes. She'll get underneath a stick, all so that it's not so easy for him to clasp on. If she decides that this is the right male for her, this is the right mate, then she will fold her wings, and then he'll have to go through the next test. And we call them tests. They're not really tests like you take in school, but it's just to make sure that she gets the right mate, so all of her offspring are going to survive after they emerge from the chrysalis. So that last test was about the male showing that that he's clever enough that he can clasp onto the end of the female's abdomen. She's folded her wings, and now the next test is one of the most amazing tests. He has to lift 100% of his body weight and 100% of her body weight off the ground to get up into the air. So he'll take off. Sometimes he looks like an airplane going down a runway, and he'll just fly off, and Other times he'll go around in circles once he's up in the air just to get enough momentum, and you see this female that's just dangling from underneath. Now another male could come and knock her out, or he could lose a grip and she would fall to the ground or fly off. But if he's successful and he keeps a grip of her with his claspers, he'll go up to the furthest tree that he can find, not the closest, not the shortest, but the tallest, away from all the other male monarchs. So remember we were talking about the difference between the male and the female, and how I could tell that the male was the one that was trying to pick the female up? Some of you already may know how to tell the difference, and I'm going to do this for those that don't, or just to remind you or refresh your memory so you'll be an expert. So what I'm looking at is when the monarch is on the ground and the wings are open. You can't tell, or some experts can when they're flying around, but I can't. Biologists, people who have studied them in depth. But when their wings are open and they're on the ground, you can definitely tell the difference. So if you take a look for just a second, I always have people look at the two monarchs and see if you notice anything different that stands out to you. And I want you to look and notice for just a second these lines on this monarch and the lines here on this monarch. So these black lines are called veins, and not veins like we have where we have blood that's running through them, but they're actually made up of scales. And it gives actually the strength to the monarch's wings. If you ever were able to touch them, it almost feels like a kite. And these are the dowels on the kite. So these veins on this monarch are really thick. These are really thin. This, if you think about like a woman wearing mascara, or if you think about you're an artist and you use a fat Sharpie, these are very thick for the female, and on the male, they're really thin. And there's one more difference, visual difference. If you look on the bottom two wings, here and here, you might have noticed that there are two small dots on the lower wings, and on the female, there are not. So that's what you're looking for. Now the tricky part, in our video, we could see clearly that there were two dots, but what happens is sometimes the wings will fold over and you won't be able to see. So what you'll then have to look for are the thick veins on the female. So hopefully that helps you if you ever find a pair of monarchs on the ground. So all those tests that the monarchs put each other through or went through are all for a specific reason. The female monarch needs to have certain things before she leaves here to go out to find the milkweed. So our pair, hypothetically, right, I want you to use your imagination, is up high up in the trees, and they're going to be up there for about 16 to 24 hours, almost a whole day. They'll be up there while the male is giving the female everything that she's going to need when she leaves this sanctuary, this grove of trees. So he's giving her a carbohydrate sack, so some food that she'll have with her, so when she leaves here she doesn't have to worry about gathering any food. And he'll give her fertilizer so that she can fertilize the eggs once she leaves here. So all those things are being passed, right? And this is a very scientific long word, the spermatophore. And if you want to know more about this, there's lots of information on the internet, or you can go to your local museum or talk to other experts. There's lots more to learn about what's happening during this mating season. So the female is now ready to go. She's going to leave here in search of that really important plant out there, outside of Pacific Grove, out in the valleys where she can lay her eggs. And she can lay between 200 and 400 eggs, so she's going to have to find a lot of native milkweed. So that's why we're encouraging all our friends, your school, anyone that you know that has access to some area can plant some milkweed so that the females will all have enough to lay their eggs. So it's always nice to wait until the end of the videos, right, for the credits, like what they do on the film. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you so much to a few people who helped make this all possible. So let's go first. I wanted to say thank you to DJ Jackson, who's a science illustrator. And when Glimpse on the Grove, the illustration that we used in the beginning was done by him. And if you want to learn more about DJ Jackson or what a science illustrator does, you can go to his website or his Twitter address. I also wanted to give a big thank you to the Pacific Grove Museum of Natural History. I wanted to thank them for all that they do to help teach and do outreach to the schools and the teachers and the students and help everybody understand about nature, both past and present. And if you're interested in learning more, you can go to the museum's website. And if you want to arrange a field trip, if you haven't already done so, you want to contact Sierra Hellman, and there's her phone number. So thank you, and thank you to the museum for making this all possible, and for supporting our creating these videos to share with you. And then last but not least, my special friend Amanda, we want to say thank you to her for all her creative skills and her filming and her editing. And you can find Amanda teaching you about the coasts through her Silmar State Beach Live on Facebook, where she does Tweety Tuesdays. You don't just learn about birds, though. You learn about all kinds of wildlife that's along our coasts, right? And it's fascinating. Who knows, you might run into us one day, because we have other projects that we do as well where we're helping support nature. So I hope you find something that you're passionate about, and that you continue to explore. And I hope that you come back and visit us here in the sanctuary, and that we have monarchs next year. Thank you. We find one monarch.
Oh, I see him, yeah.
Oh. Oh, there it is. Oh, here we go. Now where does...
There he goes over to the left.
Oh my goodness.
Ivy. Oh, there he is. I see him.
Yeah, with his wings folded up there. He's all camouflaged. Coming down.
There he is.
Yeah, there. Right there. Got it. Oh. Oh, you had it a second ago. Oh,
There he is.
so can we... Oh.
There he goes.
Every time.